Hello, you are listening to the Short Film Podcast, where filmmakers watch and analyse as many short films as humanly possible. My name is Bernadetta. I'm a film director and producer. I'm joined by director of photography and producer Matthias Jan and producer Jamie Mills. So, in this episode, we're going to be breaking down short films that explore themes of friendship. And to do so, we are joined by the longtime friend and filmmaker Alistair White. Welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about yourself. You know, what you've been doing. What are your fondest memories of us as friends?
Hello, I'm Alistair White.
How do you know us?
So I went to Lancaster University with the other three people here.
Yeah.
Hello.
We all met at the Film Society.
Yeah.
And so I've made films with these guys for the 3 years we were at university.
Yeah. So all of us were a network, weren't we?
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, we're all
Yes,
network.
you're right.
Yeah.
Technically we were. How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
And then
Yeah.
we did me and Alistair did Shot Down together, which Alistair directed.
Yep, the year
What
after.
have you done with Bernie?
Well, the year after that, I did Worst Case Scenario with you.
Oh yeah, worst case scenario. Yeah.
So
That was
yeah,
fun.
that was a lot of fun actually.
Yeah.
It was every film I worked on actually. Lancaster was a lot of fun to work on.
A lot
So-
of like extra stuff like group projects together and different stuff like that.
Yeah. I was kind of just like the guy who just did everything really. Or like,
You were like a multi-tool. It always felt like we have an
Yeah.
issue. Alistair, can you fix this for me?
yeah.
and yeah, well that's basically what I did. Really, I didn't do anything else in the film society. Nothing useful. But no, it was
You were also the treasurer for
exactly.
for
Yeah,
2 years.
the treasurer. Yeah.
Treasure. I love your confidence in that.
No, we had a lot of fun. But that was a year ago. So Jamie, you left
I did.
the year when we were in second year,
Yeah, that's right.
and then we.
That's when we actually became friends.
We graduated last year, and then I've just been working in London. So software development, making use of my degree.
Being very adult.
Yep, very adult.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird. I still living with my mum though, so But-
Keeping it real.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, obviously I remember like on Shutdown. I always go on about Shutdown every time. It's like the one film, but
Catherine will be hating you right now.
yeah. Oh god, yeah. But just having to lug the equipment there to the
Yeah.
forest.
It was like 40-minute walk.
Yeah, that was fun. That was
Yeah.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
we had like a suitcase full of guns and army equipment and filming equipment. And we made Alistair carry most of it because it was his project. He's the passionate one, right?
I get that.
Ouch. Ouch.
But yeah, no. But it was all worth it because in the end, we made a great film. I would
Yeah.
watch it on YouTube. Search Shot Down, and it's probably like the 4th or 5th link. So look for that one.
My first memory of you, which I feel like summarizes my experience of working with you for the next 2 years, was in one of the early network meetings. It might have been the first one. You came up and were like, "Hey, I could do some VFX for this." And we were like, "Cool, yeah, great. Show us what you've got." And you were like, "Yeah, I'll go do something. I'm going to bring it in." And then we didn't see you for like 6 weeks, and you showed up with like this amazing like plane CGI thing that you'd done. It was incredible. But it was like you just disappeared and then came back with this amazing piece of
I
work.
Spanish. No, that summarized me quite well.
I think so.
disappear for like basically years at a time. So that's what I did. That's what I did for basically this year.
Yeah.
When I left university, it's just like I went completely MIA. So, so
We are going to move on to Hot Seat, a film directed and written by Anna Kerrigan. The film tells the story of a teen, Andrea, who uses a male stripper to gain the respect and admiration of a cool girl, Daphne. Here is a clip.
How about you, birthday girl? You want to sit in the hot seat?
Of course.
I don't know about that.
What? Do it.
Stop.
It's time to become a woman. Do it.
Do it, 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 do it.
I'll go.
So for me, this was just such a real and potent like capture of friendship. Like the first time I watched it, the biggest thing that I came away was like that theme of friendship and like the bonds that you form when you're like a kid with other people your age. And like I couldn't think of another film which like captures friendship more perfectly than this for me. And that was why I wanted to bring it. And I think it's like wonderfully made as well.
It's interesting. So in terms of, you feel like friendship is summarized by her like taking the hit for her in that sense,
Not
or like being
necessarily.
okay.
There's more to it.
Didn't love the film necessarily. There is one moment towards the end of the film which I did really enjoy. I just think is so weird and funny, and it really works. The climax of the film overall, I think, works. The build-up is possibly a bit too slow for me. I just think it takes too long probably to reach that climax. But I feel like that's the feedback I give for a lot of these films. It's interesting. I get what you're saying. It does feel like there's definitely an important friendship there, but it wouldn't have necessarily been the most important theme that came to mind when watching it.
Alistair, what do you think about it?
Well, that's a good point, actually. I hadn't even considered, but I do agree with you. Where I feel like it was quite a lot of build up, really. When I sort of feel like they could have maybe cut down that a little bit.
Yeah.
It was difficult to watch for me. Or just a little bit, just because it was just a bit awkward. And I don't do awkward comedy very well, but I liked the way the film was shot, actually, and I liked the dialogue. I felt like the dialogue kind of felt quite natural. In an awkward way, I sort of forgot I was watching the film. I feel like that's an indication of something that's well shot and that's been put together well.
Yeah.
But I kind of forget I'm actually watching the film, and so I thought the way the film was shot and like the dialogue in particular, I thought was really good and very natural.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think?
So, for me, I think objectively I like the film, but I don't like it in the context of talking about friendship. So, from just the way I interpret it, for me, this film is about the pressures, the kind of like really quite horrific pressures that are forced upon anyone growing up. So, if we were talking about it in that context, I would really like it. I think that showcases it really, really well. But in terms of the context of like talking about friendship, I don't think this is a film about friendship. I think this is kind of, I really dislike the way that it portrays friendship and the way that, like Jamie mentioned, like taking a hit. And for me, this like was like what the girls have to do, in my eyes, was kind of like a form of sexual abuse. And the fact that it suggests that, oh yeah, friendship's worth that. Like friendship's worth not saying anything, accepting this form of abuse, and then being friends at the end. Like that is my fundamental like issue with the film.
Yeah. So for me, the way I interpret it and the thing that like why it's so poignant about friendship for me is I feel like the strongest bonds in friendship are always formed in like the toughest of circumstances. Like when you go through like something horrible, which could be like mentally scarring for the rest of your life, but you do it with friends, like it gives you the ability, like Andrea does at the end, to just like laugh about it and have that not be something that like ruins your life because you're with friends. And like I think it captured that so well for me. And like there's been times in my life where like it was like last year I had a time where I was out at a pub in my local town, and then me and a couple of friends were just walking around, like we were attacked that night, and like it was quite bad. Like one of my friends had his nose broken, and like after it happened and like we walked off and we were heading home, like it was like quite a horrific thing which happened, but we kind of all just like laughed about it and like we're like, wow, that was like crazy how and after that ended up happening. And like it's not something that scarred me at all, and like it's made me much better friends with those two people. And so that's what this really captured for me in a way that like for me it's just like I can imagine like another director like portraying how I felt so well.
But can I kind of interject and like offer, so what you went through with your friends, yes, it was horrific, but you went through it with your friends. This, she went through it because her friends put her in that situation. So if one of your friends had put you in the situation to get attacked, and then you were friends after it because, oh yeah, you know, we can bond over this, like we've both experienced, but no, like you went through a horrific situation together. Here, she forced her friend into this situation.
I'm not sure that's completely true. So like what I'd explain is in my scenario, if like one of my friends was about to be beaten up, and instead of letting him get beaten up, I interjected and I was one who got beaten up instead. That would be the equivalent, and that would form a bit stronger bond.
No, if your friend had ordered the beat up to happen, and you're like, oh no, like the friend's like, you know.
But as in Daphne doesn't order for the hot seat to happen. She says, no, I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, but she was still the one that created this.
So if my friend had like gotten into an argument with someone, but he didn't want to have a fight, and then I saw that the other person was going to fight him, and I got in the way to stop my friend getting beaten up, even though he's instigated the incident, like that's equivalent to me, and that would form a stronger bond for me.
But surely the better friendship would be if like, oh no, like this is wrong. You should like speak up and be like, you don't have to do this.
I also think there's one other element. I'm not sure if it necessarily. I don't know which one of you is right, but there's another element. That their friendship isn't on an even kilter. Yeah. There's a clear power imbalance between them. Like Daphne is clearly the one in that relationship that has more control and has more authority, and the other girl whose name I can't remember, Andrea, is clearly desperate for her approval, and I suppose that's probably why it might feel slightly non-consensual or slightly iffy in a way, because you question whether she's truly consenting to that or if she's just desperate in a kind of peer pressure-y way to get the approval of her friend. I have to be honest, I didn't think this is the direction this conversation was going to go. It's interesting though. I mean, I hadn't even really considered that angle, and I think it's really interesting that you came at it from that point of view. I don't know.
Like for me, this is a film about not having the strength to say no to abuse.
So
wow.
You said that you liked it if you saw it in that fashion. So does that mean that you like the film, but you just interpret it in a different way to me?
Yeah, as in if we're talking about, if we're talking about teenage like abuse and teenage,
but as in,
like,
because of, I'm the one who's like put this. To me, this is about friendship, and I put it in that like mindset. But that doesn't make the film about
friendship.
Yeah, that just makes it about friendship for me.
Let me step back and try. I think it's an important film, but it's such an uncomfortable film to watch. So I think like would be a strong word. But I think it's a film that is important to be made to show people, you know, how easy it is to kind of like get into that situation and how like you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I guess it's always about your own subjective experience of watching something. I guess friendship wasn't the main thing that came to my mind either. And it's not to say, obviously, that you're not wrong to feel like it is, because obviously it's just totally from your own experience. But yeah, to me, it felt more like a film about like, it felt more of a coming of age, peer pressure-y kind of film than necessarily like about the beauty of friendship. You know what I mean? But I can definitely see from what you're saying, like how it can be interpreted that way.
It's a good point. I think it's just quite a sensitive subject matter, right? I mean, like sort of it's. I sort of agree with what Bernie said, where objectively, I think it's interesting, but just in the context of the actual film and the fact it's like kind of, it's like, you know, peer pressure, like all the young girls and like the kind of the older guy. It's sort of like the context of it. It's a bit. It's just a bit awkward. I guess I'm slightly more on Bernie's side, I guess, than that side. But I just because I don't really. Yeah, when I was watching it, I was kind of struggling to see what the friendship was, and it was just until the very end when I realized, so I guess it's kind of how it works. Like she's now friends with Daphne's. Daphne's now friends with Andrea because she sort of was prepared to embarrass herself in her place, but yeah, it was I feel like that was overshadowed by the awkwardness of like the whole thing for me.
Ellie, you guys are talking about like the unless you want to, I was going to say talk about the production values, but you were about to say something.
No, I wasn't.
Earlier you guys were going to like talk about like production values because you say that you love the way it was shot.
Yeah, I mentioned that when I was originally talking. My first gave my view of it. Yeah, I thought that the film. It felt like a even though it's a short film, it felt like a segment from a proper film. In which I guess I should never draw that element out of a short film because it is a film at the end of the day. But it was. I thought like it was really well shot and the flow of the film was really good. So bloody hell! I can't believe I was watching that. So like one thing I observed, for example, is that like whenever they switch camera angles, there's always something from the old shot in the next shot. That's like a really technical thing.
Oh, yeah, I
But
didn't pick up on that.
I that really helped for me at least. That helped me to kind of to sort of what's the word I'm looking for?
Because the way they shot it is a lot of it's either on a tripod or it's handheld, but it's super smooth handheld, and
Yeah.
it all flows so well from shot to shot because of it's such a smooth and like consistent language they're using with the camera.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick up on them like taking an element from the previous shot and like putting it into the start of the next one. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's I thought the film flowed really well actually.
So you're not getting pretty into smoking.
I know, yeah, again, like this bit and bit as well wasn't like a bit. Yeah, I guess it's quite. I don't know if it's I don't know if realistic's a good word because would they be smoking in is that where's this set by the way?
America or is it Canada?
It's like a
It might be, but-
sorority house. Is that?
Oh no, it's in.
They're seniors in high school, aren't
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see. Okay.
But as in so at least one of them just turned 18, so they can get cigarettes now.
Right. I see. Ah, okay. Maybe that's like the. Yeah. Maybe it would be better if like they started like coughing when they took.
But another thing that I loved about this film is the color palette they used. Like it was absolutely beautiful. Like they use a lot of practical lights and it's a lot of tungsten lights, which is a really warm color temperature. And then they contrast that with the daylight, which is really really cool. And like it creates a great like it's complementary colors, which just works really well.
Yeah.
And all the production design used plays into this color scheme. And like the white balance they set, like they keep the tungsten lights looking orange, but also keep the daylight looking blue. And it's just so beautiful. I love the way it's shot.
It's interesting. On a very blatant and not particularly subtle element of the kind of production design and costume design, having all the young girls dressed in white. I don't know if there's a in-story reason for them to all be in white. I don't think there is.
Yeah, I think it's school uniform. As in, like, a lot of them, I think, are still in their school uniform because they've got the same
Like,
polo.
yeah.
I didn't necessarily
skirt, yeah.
pick up on that because a couple of them don't feel like they're in school uniform.
Some of them are not, but
Yeah.
the ones wearing the polos are.
Anyway, from an out-of-film point of view, the kind of contrast of that, of these innocent young girls and this horrendously explicit sexual experience they're about to go through is quite a fun contrast.
Yeah, yeah.
Fun contrast? It's not a fun contrast.
Fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole family. Can we talk about probably the only moment of this film that matters to me?
Yeah.
Which is the climax of the film, very literally, where... And I love every single thing about that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
The romantic
Yeah.
staging of it. It goes into slow motion and they make eye contact across the thing, and there's like beautiful music plays, and they're like smiling at each other, and it feels beautiful. And then it intercuts with him coming all over her face, and that is such a.
But what they do with sound at that
Classic,
moment
but,
is
yeah.
so great because of it starts with like silence in the room and all the girls are like whispering, but there's no
Yeah.
music or anything. And then they bring in the like really like romanticized music when the slow mo starts.
Yeah.
And like it just makes you not expect the climax to happen at all. And when it happens, music just cuts out and you're kind of just like, what?
Well, like, literally just before it happened, I was like, where are they going with this? Like, when are they going to stop? And I was like, oh, that's where
There's a place this usually stops, and that's when it's
And
going.
I was like, how far are they going to like take it? And I was like, oh, that far.
I love the performance of the stripper as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
beautifully awkward.
God, it must have been so difficult to film. That's like just for all the actors and actresses. It might-
Yeah.
But like all the performances were great. Like even
Yeah.
you know when
Yeah,
we went
it
to a wide shot and you've got everyone in shot, like everyone's performing. Like there's no one who's like breaking character. Everyone's like reacting to the situation in their own way, and like everyone's always like on the point. It's really well directed and well performed.
Yeah, agreed.
I thought the performance was really good actually. I thought that was. Again, it felt like I was watching like an actual like
Feature.
yeah.
Right, moving on to the next one. The next one's called Bickford Park. It was written and directed by Dane Clark and Lindsay Stewart, and it tells a very non-sexual story of a woman who takes skateboarding lessons from a handsome teenager to avoid facing the problems in her own marriage. Here's a clip.
Has this guy taught you a kickflip?
Nah, not yet.
No? Oh, it's like one of the first things you learn. It's like so basic. Here.
Let's just go home.
No. I got it.
Jamie, you brought this one along. Tell us why.
I have a terrible confession.
Ouch.
I picked this film without actually watching it. So,
Respect that.
so I have now seen it twice. I picked this because we were trying to gather our films together, and I saw the logline for this, and I thought, I'm absolutely going to love that film. No matter what happens in it, I know I'm going to love that. So I just threw it in. Save time, I can watch it later when I've got a bit more time. Turns out I didn't love it. I think it's good, and I think there's a lot to really like about it. My frustration is the thing that really got me really excited is I love the idea of this dynamic between the older woman and the skater. Which is something we kind of touched on a bit earlier about like unlikely friendship in films, is always such a delight to me. I always want to have like odd couples friendships in stuff like that, and particularly when they're like so different culturally. Like a middle-aged woman and a teenage skater feel so distinctive in terms of what they'd be interested in, their values and stuff. And that's the dynamic I was interested in. I don't give a shit about their fucking marriage falling apart. I want like them teaching each other stuff and growing together and seeing what they can learn from each other, and the slightly like odd comedic element of that and the slightly off-kilterness of that. It felt like it would be really interesting. And the moments where we get that in the film, I love it. And the moments where he's teaching her to skate and she's showing up in all the pads and everything, and he's like just complete opposite, really work, and I think are really great. The stuff about her marriage just doesn't interest me. I kind of want like one scene with the marriage at the beginning and then just their dynamic and relationship.
I feel like it ended a bit quickly, actually. That would probably be my criticism, I guess. Maybe that's it. That's the issue of being a short film. It's difficult to squeeze in that stuff. But I guess, But I enjoyed the film. I thought it was fine. Yeah.
I think I'm in a very similar part to you. It's like I did enjoy it, and there's a lot of like filmmaking reasons why I enjoyed it, and I liked the story and thought it was sweet, but I thought it was like it wasn't revolutionary.
Yeah, I thought. I mean,
I feel like Jamie, it's what you thought it was going to do, but I didn't quite do. It's that sort of thing, yeah.
You're kind of waiting it to go in that next gear, and it just never quite.
It was a story with like a beginning and an end.
Yeah,
but I feel like it could have. Yeah, I feel like it could have explored it. Explored the subject a bit more, and
it's competent without being interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Bernie, what did you think?
I really loved this film.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But for me, like it took me a couple of viewings to appreciate it as much as I do now, because it is so subtle in what it says. So that's at least what I got from. For me, at first, I was like, oh yeah, it's just a cool friendship that doesn't really go anywhere, and I was like, oh, so what's the point of it? But then I watched it again, and you pick up kind of like the details. Like, I mean, like for instance, like some of the more recent ones, like she'd rather be in a car reading her book than going home to her husband, or in the boot there was like already like skates in the boot, so she's clearly like tried to pick up other hobbies to kind of distract herself from her husband. And yet she still sits there and listens to his music, even though he doesn't really feel like he cares that she's there or not. And so straight away you kind of like sympathize with her more, and you kind of see the husband as like a bit of a doesn't really care about her anymore, and doesn't like is bored of her essentially. And so that's where the friendship comes in. Like this new friendship like begins, and this friendship has got like a real threat of taking her away.
Because I think the fun, even in that limited insight we get into their relationship, the issue is that he's so invested in his side of the relationship.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't care about her, he's just interested in what he's going on with him. And even in this moment where he's aware that he's potentially losing his wife, he's still trying to prove how great he is. He's like completely misread the issue. He's completely misread what is going on here, why his wife is unhappy. And he's almost, it's like a compensating for masculinity thing. He sees his wife with this like cool, sexy teenager, and he's like, no, I've got to prove I'm cool and manly and sexy. And so he tries to do the trick. Like, I feel like that moment really just underscored for her why that marriage isn't going to work.
Yeah, potentially. But then they have that conversation where she's like, "Oh, it's just hard sometimes," and he agrees. Like he's like, "Yeah, it is." And
But
he's
then
always
when
sorry.
you see after when they're in bed and she's like awake and they're not like embracing each other, and you think they're like quite divided on the bed.
Yeah.
And then she like leaves, and she does leave to like leave the skateboard, but to me it still wasn't. It didn't feel like they were coming together in that last scene.
I feel like the film could have used like, I don't know. I never like it when a film sort of ends ambiguously, and I want the film to tell me how what to do at the end. I don't want to like think for myself. That's what the film. That's I want the film to think for me.
You
And
want
so
a title card at the end that goes, "You should feel angry now."
Exactly.
Okay, feel angry now.
Yeah, it should be like Unbreakable, when it's just like a wall of text at the end. You're like, what the hell just happened? It's like, okay, he was arrested, and like, okay, great, sure, that happened. And so with this film, I feel like it could have done with like an epilogue. Like, I don't know, if he wants to show them stitching back the marriage, like him playing the guitar and him like smiling at her because he's like happy that she's now listening. You know, she's like, he's now appreciating that she's listening, or
maybe him going to something that she's doing. And
because I feel like they kind of I feel like they suggested that she ended it with the young skater guy because she returned the skateboard.
Yeah.
Right? I guess that's what that's suggesting.
Yeah, but they didn't show that he's changed in any way. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And like they set up that he's the problem, but then it's only her who's got to make the change.
I guess they showed that he understood that he, you know, because he said, "I might lose you" and stuff. But yeah, I feel like the film could.
But that was still him making it, like Jamie said, it was still him making it about himself.
Right.
But at least it was the beginning. Like at least they were
having a conversation.
Like it was the start of them admitting that their marriage isn't where it should be.
Let's talk about the black and white element of this film, because I cannot fathom why this film was shot in black and white.
I think there was a few strange choices in this film with stuff like that. Because another thing is music. Like I really liked the music in this film, but it was so different. Like there was some music which was electronic, there was some which was like Latin, there was some which was rock. Yes, like it didn't seem like one composer composing a score for this music. It was like them plucking music from different royalty-free sites.
I feel like
just throwing it all together.
Yeah, I feel, and maybe that's the reason as to what I was going to say, because I was going to comment on the music choice as well, because I feel like the songs kind of just started playing not at random points, but just there was no music for a long time, then suddenly there was music and it was quite loud. And not that it didn't like fit the scene, but you're right. Maybe that's it. It was just the music was different. It was very different every time. Every time it was on screen. So yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, well, I think. Well, I'm going to interject because this film is so similar to a Italian film that was produced in the 60s or 70s, which is part of the New Wave era, and in that there was a massive there was a period where there was loads of films about women who were trying to figure out who their identity was within a marriage, and so it was shots of like women wandering around like cities or like trying out weird new things on their own.
Yeah, one thing. I mean, I guess we're gonna talk a bit more about the technical aspect. I really liked the picture. The picture was super clear.
Yeah,
actually.
I think it's the lenses.
Yeah,
like, absolutely beautiful because of the characters are so sharp, while the background's like got so much. It's so out of focus, and like they really nailed the depth of field and like the focus on every single shot. Like I love.
So yeah, I'm not sure like what effect is the black and white. Like if I'd seen that in color, would I still think the images were super sharp? And I guess so. But again, one thing I would say is that in comparison to Hot Seat, what we were just talking about, it felt like a short film. It didn't feel like sort of a part of a feature length film, and I think it's just because a lot of like stationary wide shots. And the cutting was, not saying the flow of the film was bad, but I just don't think it was as good as Hot Seat, just because as well as talking about where it would just be a whole new, it'd be like a totally different part of the scene would be the shot, and so I felt like there was, but it's not to say there weren't. Yeah, not to say the flow was bad, but that's one thing I observed was that sometimes I kind of felt a bit jarred.
The film I was referring to, was La Notte, directed in 1961 by Michelangelo Antonioni.
One last point about Bickford Park.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't like the fact that they chose black and white, I'm really glad that they did it properly. So like the non-proper way to do black and white is just like taking the saturation out of the image. But the way they did it is like when you apply like a proper black and white plugin, you control like what hues and what shades become what shade of grey and black. So like you can really dial in the exact colours everywhere. Or exact shades everywhere.
Talking about doing stuff properly, let's go on a bike ride. Up a massive hill when you haven't biked in ages. Yes, I'm talking about The Climb, a film about longtime pals who bike up a steep hill. As Mike, the fitter of the two, confesses he's been having a relationship with Kyle's ex-girlfriend. Kyle was depressed, but now he's just very angry. Directed, written, and acted by Michelangelo Covino. Here's a clip.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna fucking kill you. Oh my God. Kyle, slow down. You should pace yourself, man. How long? Like a quarter mile. No. How long have you been seeing each other? How long? 2 months. 2 months? Maybe 3, 4. You're like a real life Judas.
So I was the one that brought this film along. I just thought it was so clever, so witty, so simple, but showcased like a friendship so well, even though you've got so little background because all you see is 2 guys on a bike climbing a hill. I feel like you kind of understand their friendship so well. And they go on an adventure with the narrative at least, and I just thought it really showcased kind of like what friendship, the ups and downs of friendship. Yeah, Damon, what did you think?
That was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It's really funny.
it's so funny.
It's funny in a very classic way in which it's you've taken a very serious conversation and you've put it in a bizarre situation, and then no matter what the line is, it's always going to be funny. So Kyle's line's like, "I'm going to kill you," or "You're ruining my life," and stuff like that. And in a different context, that's just really tragic. But because you've put him,
It's like out of breath.
Out of breath,
I'm going to
sweaty.
kill you if I can catch you.
So I thought it was really well thought out. It felt really intelligently planned, really entertaining, quite emotional. There was a lovely undercurrent to it. Yeah, I think it might be, very sincerely, one of my favourite films we've had on this podcast.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and like it captures friends so well, and like it feels so real, and like you really believe that these two are friends, and like again, like you guys said, it's so funny. Their chemistry is great. The like story they tell is like great. Like yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I thought the dialogue was just excellent as well. Like very, very real. I believed because it felt realistic, even though it was like funny.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, it's so simple, but even going down to like the production side, we were talking about this earlier, one of them's wearing like the most ridiculous striped socks with like clearly not sports shoes at all. They're like boat shoes. And the other was like in his full professional gear. It just sums up their characters so quickly and so well. And it enables your imagination to kind of like build lives around them and imagine each of them where they're like living and what they're doing and stuff. You can imagine them in their natural settings.
Oh yeah.
But you're not given that context. You're giving such a limited amount of information, and yet you can.
The film gives you more than enough information for you to build to build a picture of each character in your mind.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the way it was shot and cinematography?
It's interesting. I think it looks gorgeous, and a lot of that is probably down to the location more than necessarily cinematography.
And the time they're shooting.
And the
golden hour.
yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
which is great for oneers.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's definitely not the wrong choice, I don't think, to film it in that way. But maybe there was a more interesting way of doing it. Saying that, it feels like a lot of the comedy works because you're kind of forced to drag out the awkwardness of it, and if you're able to cut and kind of escape that tension, it maybe relieves you of that a little bit. I don't know. It's an interesting question. Possibly the thing with the golden hour is that it makes it seem maybe a bit too beautiful and a bit too polished and pristine.
Yeah.
So it makes it gorgeous, but maybe gorgeous was the wrong feel for this.
Yeah.
And I'm not even necessarily sure about that. It's my same with the kind of doing it all in a oneer. That might have been the right choice, actually. And clearly they've thought about it a lot more.
I like the fact that it was gorgeous because I feel like it was the unobvious choice, because usually a gorgeously shot film will have
Everything happy.
Sorry.
Everything happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or just it looks so beautiful, but the dialogue wasn't beautiful. I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It's
think
like
we're
a
all
nice
trying to-
juxtaposition.
Sorry.
It's a nice juxtaposition.
Yeah, or something. I don't know. I'm trying to be interesting and deep, but I don't know what to do, man.
Love it.
You are. That was really.
With
yeah.
Bwana, I think I'm with Bernie. I like the decision to do Bwana, but I just don't think they executed it perfectly.
Oh,
and so like, there's a lot of times where like they're not framing anything. So like, there's a time where they're turning around the corner and like they're on Michael and they go to pan to Kyle, and then they realize something not get a shot of Kyle. So then they come back up to Michael, and there's like a 5-second shot which is just looking at nothing. There's moments like that where like the framing's not perfect. They didn't quite nail it, and like if they had broken it up, they could have like had the framing better throughout. But they chose to like have everything together and like have those not perfect moments. They chose the right thing, but they just didn't quite nail it, and so it doesn't work quite as well as it could.
Yeah, interesting.
How would you film something like this? Is it? I mean, my instinct is that there's a camera guy on the back of a truck,
Yeah,
and that's all they do. And he's maybe got some sort. He's got a
I reckon he's got a gimbal in
gimbal,
this
yeah.
one, and they like there's times where I think I can see they've used like warp stabilizer to further stabilize
Yeah.
it.
I see it.
But
Oh
now.
but I don't think the gimbal's the best choice. So
Right.
like something like a techno crane can be more precise with this sort of stuff instead of having someone have to hold the camera for like 12 minutes, having it on a crane which is electric.
If you guys had to reveal this news to someone, what strange activity would you take them on? Or not necessarily strange, what activity would you do with your friend if you had to reveal this news to them?
So it depends on the friend. So like one tactic is to take them to a public place where they can't like go too crazy. But then if there's a friend who you know they won't go too crazy, you can take them somewhere else.
Imagine it's Alistair.
Have you seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Not properly now.
Okay, I'm guessing no one has. There's a scene where Gavin DeVito's character goes
Yeah.
nuts in a restaurant. Starts like flipping over tables and stuff because he's been given bad news by his and they explicitly say, "We brought you here so you wouldn't make a scene." Like, don't make
Yeah,
a scene.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
I'd go to somewhere where there's like a near-death, there's potential for death.
What?
Sorry?
Somewhere that you could kill them in case we react badly.
Yeah, but, like,
fucking sit to them whining about this.
Not kill them, but like
Take him to a cemetery.
no, but like some kind of activity where like our potentially our lives are on the line. So when I tell them this news, yeah, they're like, I'm like, well, actually, in the grand scheme of your life, it's not that big a deal.
I feel like you're learning from Matthias there in terms of like, you feel like also it'll fix your friendship and improve it because you'll go through that like, scary experience together. Alistair, if you had to break that news to Matthias, what would you tell him?
I don't know when. On a film shoot, then I use the anger. It's like what you're saying. I have no idea.
That's fair. That's fair.
Haven't got an answer.
What would you do, Jamie?
I would start a podcast where we talk about short films. I would bring this film along, invite them as a guest, and then start telling them.
So what are you about to tell us?
Some bad news.
Only one person here is a guest, so.
Yeah, never
No,
know.
that's true.
Yeah, so.
Alistair, I'm very sorry.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, what have we all learned from these films? Or like, what have we taken back from these films? Alistair, you go first. You're a guest.
It depends what So I guess taking away from the friendship aspect, I'm not really sure what my takeaway is actually. I mean, there was definitely, there were people who knew each other. So definitely in The Climb, there was friendship. There was elements of friendship there because they're obviously friends. But in the other ones, I felt like the friendship was too short-lived. Like in Hot Seat, like the friendship's just kind of at the end. And I suppose it's about building up the friendship, but and then in the second one, Bitchford Park. Bickford Park. I feel like the friendship in that was too short-lived because I guess the friendship in that is between the woman and the skater, and I feel like in that it was too short.
Yeah.
So anyway, my takeaway from friendship, sort of is interesting, but I did enjoy the films, and I mean, yeah, I really like the technical aspect. that's probably my favorite part of filmmaking. You know, Hot Seat was a bit weird, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm fine.
That's good.
What would
Yeah.
you say?
So with both Hot Seat and The Climb, they're both like based off true events, and so I think when it comes to friendship, it's really great when you come from a place of truth. Like,
Yeah.
you can't make friendship artificial. If you want to tell a story about friendship, it's got to be, you got to have some element of truth in there. You don't have to like tell a true story, but it's got to come from a place like from your heart.
Yeah, that was nice. Jamie?
I don't know. I guess you see like 3 different dimensions of friendship there for me. And so you in Hot Seat, you get the always sticking up for each other kind of style of friendship, that you're always there to support them and get them out of a situation. In Bickford Park, you get the element of friendship that friendship often does, is that it brings out a better part of you. And then with The Climb, I don't know, I guess it's the element of friendship that you kind of, you still value it and you allow it to continue no matter what. You know, there's a real loyalty embedded in there. So there's not necessarily something that kind of binds all 3, but I suppose they kind of each give you a different element of friendship, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, so nothing as much filmmaking. And it's a bit tenuous, but I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I liked it. I'd say that, well, I think what I brought back from them is all 3 of them had such strong, unique cinematography. And I don't think that's related to friendship, but I suppose when you're creating a lot of short films are passion projects anyway, and if it's a passion project about friendship, then you might approach it with like a different type of like, I don't know, love or passion. So I was just kind of impressed by the cinematography and the uniqueness of all 3. Yeah, that's probably what I'd say. Thank you, Alistair, so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on.
thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Good
Good to
seeing
see you again.
After a while.
See you in 2 years.
Yeah. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can find us all on social media, or you can look up the Short Film Podcast on all social medias. You can find me on Instagram at Bernie Baines. You can find Jamie on Twitter and Matthias on Instagram.
I'm at Matthias Chan.
If you want to get in contact with you, Alistair, where's the best place to, find you?
Facebook. Look for the guy with the weird profile picture.
Yep, Alistair White. Keep your friendship strong. Keep making films.
Keep your friendship with this podcast strong.
Yes.
Keep listening.